Hello everybody, welcome to this lunch seminar hosted by KI Career Service. My name is Emma Hägg and I'm happy to see so many of you here today. I'm going to let you know things about this event today because we are having an event about how to become a PhD student, but the interest is quite great about this topic, so we've decided to film this event. So bear with us and the technical issues that might happen. We will have to break between the speakers just to make sure they have the microphones, and we will pass around a microphone for you to answer questions, ask your questions in at the very end. So please save your questions to the end, write them down so you don't forget them. But this is making everything easier for us to film this event so more people can actually learn how it is to become a PhD student here at Karolinska Institutet. Also, to give you some information, we have some folders on this topic. There's a doctoral education folder that you can pick up on the way out. There's another folder called PhD Can Take You Anywhere. So if you're interested in what kind of careers you can have after having done a PhD, this is a good inspirational magazine. Also, Career Service hosts a lot of events. We have upcoming events that I would like to inform you about. We have a CV seminar in Huddinge in Swedish and a LinkedIn seminar in Huddinge in Swedish as well. The CV seminar is the 6th of April and the LinkedIn seminar is the 12th of April, also at Torget in Huddinge in the library. And on the 26th of April, we have a networking event that is in English. We have invited a consultant called Andrew Hennigan, and he will teach you everything about the networking skills that you need to improve your career. But first of all, I'd like to give the floor to one of the speakers today, Robert Harris, the Director of Doctoral Education. After him, we will have the doctoral students, Matilda and Frank, give their story on how they became PhD students. And at the very end, you're welcome to ask your questions. I hope you will enjoy this event. Thank you.
Okay, what a pleasure to be here and see so many young scientists. Who knows, somewhere in the room here, maybe we have a Nobel Prize winner. So this is me, Bob Harris. My mother is the only person that calls me Robert nowadays, so I always react to that. So I'm a professor here at Karolinska. I'm a researcher first and foremostly. So I have a research group studying diseases of the brain and trying to work out ways to fix those diseases. I'm not a clinician, but I'm based at the hospital in the CMM building. So we have this nice interface between preclinical and clinical research. I've been involved with PhD students. I've had a lot myself, either as main supervisor or as co-supervisor, about 25, including the ones I've got at the moment, about half of them as main responsible. And of course, I've been a PhD student myself. That was actually 25 years ago. 1991, I defended my thesis in England. So I have a first-hand experience of being a PhD student, although it's not really relevant, the experiences I had 25 years ago, because a lot's happened since then. I'm also head of the Director of Studies, Study Director, for the Department of Clinical Neuroscience. We have 223 students. I'm involved in the admissions process for all of them and checking out how it's going with them. And then I also have this role as Central Study Director, Director of Studies, where I do a lot of leadership training, teaching supervisors how to be supervisors, trying to encourage students how to be good students, and lots of other things. So a lot of different roles. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit philosophical about what's cool about PhDs, a little bit practical about sort of the formal things that you need to do, and then a little practical tips about like what I think would be things that would be useful for you to know. So the first question and the whole point of this seminar is why do a PhD then? So why would you want to do a PhD? Haven't you done enough studying now in your normal university education? And is it study or is it something else? Well, the major question is if you like asking these types of questions, if you like asking why, if you like asking when, where, what, and how. So if you're a person with an inquisitive nature, that's what science is all about, okay? And doctoral education is training in being a researcher. And research is all about discovering things that you don't know. and learning things. So if you're an inquisitive person, if you like asking questions, if you like discovering things, then PhD could be something for you. Because it's all about the journey. This is a lovely picture. I thoroughly recommend that you go in online and look at it more closely. It's called The Island of Research. It was painted way back in the 1960s, maybe even before I was born, and it's rather lovely. And it shows this island of research. Here's where you start, in the city of hope, and you make your way through the jungle of authority, over the problem range, the mountain of hypothesis, and you start journeying, the mount of where am I going. Here you come to the data analysis jungle, and here you have the wreck heap of discarded hypotheses. I spent lots of my scientific career there. And you go through the where am I fog, what am I doing, and eventually you'll end up doing some studies and you'll get some results, and you go through the planes of report writing and through the delta of editors, and you publish your work and you become a scientist. And what this picture symbolizes is a journey, and it's a journey that you'll do in your PhD. So if you're interested in making this type of journey, a journey of exploration, a journey of learning, and the point of all these obstacles is that in order to traverse, in order to climb a mountain or cross a river, you need to have the right knowledge and the right tools to be able to do that. And that's what you'll learn doing a PhD. That you'll learn the knowledge and the skills and ideas about how to get through, and that will be your journey. If you get naughty, then you get sent to the administration island, and here's the know-it-all island, which isn't too fun to be. So there are lots of skills. And let's face it, so for all of you here, if you're 100 people here, then how many of you will go on to be professors? If you look through the whole of Europe and you look at the statistics, then I can say that 3 or 4 of you will become professors, and everyone else will do something else. Okay? So what's the point of a PhD? Is the point of a PhD to become a professor? No. That might have been the case 50 years ago, but now most people are learning the skills, having the experiences they need in order to get lots of other professions, either in the biotech industry if you're interested in science, or in a bank working as an analyst, or anything. But the skills that you learn here during your PhD are the skill sets that will be useful for you in whatever you end up doing. And hopefully some of you will be interested in doing academic research as well. So if we look at the processes of how it works, then there's a formal procedure. And the first thing is that there'll be an advertisement. All PhD places at Karolinska should be advertised so that you can compete for them in competition. There are a few exceptions if the project is funded by industry, or if it's a clinician who's employed by the county council, but otherwise there'll be an advertisement and there'll be a selection process. So you can find available positions, there'll be a list of these. Any advertisement that comes up, you find here on the KI homepage, a KI job, and there's a procedure that you need to submit your CV, motivation letter, and so on. And there'll be a selection process. And here's just this is the most recent thing. So here you can see a series of places that are available, and you click on the link and it will give you more information about the subject area. So this is one place to look to see what's available, and you can see when the deadlines are and so on. What's going to be important is to have an idea about where you want to be. One of the disadvantages with this system, if they've not fixed it, is that you can apply for every single position that's advertised. And as somebody, then a PI that wants to recruit a student, you don't want people who are applying for every single PhD position at Karolinska. You want people interested in coming to me to work on my project. So that's your first tip. If there's a motivation letter, don't write it in a sort of a fluffy, I'm really interested in your research, because that won't mean anything. If I get an application like that, I rank it lowly, because I'd say this person doesn't actually know what I'm doing. So how do you know what people are doing? You go into the homepage, the departmental homepages, and you click on research, and through there you'll be able to see the research that's being done. So we have 22 departments at Karolinska, all doing different thematic things. If you're interested in cell biology, click in on CMB. If you're interested in neuroscience, you've got neuroscience and clinical neuroscience, 2 departments. And you can find information. Hopefully the PIs, the research groups are well presented. You get an idea of what they're doing. And that will be a first way of finding out what's available. So the second part then is when you've identified something that could be of interest, then you apply, and there'll be an interview and a selection process. And there's no standard way this is done. Every PI will actually do this in their own way. They'll have their own criteria for selection. But one of the things that's actually extremely useful is that someone has first-hand experience. So all of you doing master's degrees, if you get to do a project work in a lab where you think this might be a potential place to do a PhD, that will be an advantage for you because you already know what's going on. Okay? So you can think even of your choice of master's projects where you might want to end up. But at the end of the day, the selection has to be done in a proper way, but it's the PI that's going to make the selection of the place. Another thing which is really important is that you want to have enthusiasm, and it's not just enthusiasm to come to do research, but really a genuine enthusiasm. Because it's kind of tough being a PhD student. It's tough because it's an unknown. And everything you do, most of the things you do will be new, and you'll be stumbling, and that's how you learn, okay? Actually doing research and publishing papers is really easy, but it's knowing what to do and how to get things working, which is the tough thing. And in some projects it can take a long time, in other projects it can take a short time. But if you don't have genuine enthusiasm for asking questions and really being motivated to take this journey together with your supervisors, then you shouldn't really be doing it. So any prior knowledge that you have, and the easiest thing then is to go in to a research group and see what they're doing, click up their publications. And this is also your way of not, the group is going to select you, but you can actually select the groups as well. The real smart students, they look and see where are these people publishing? How often are they publishing? What do they seem to be doing? What seems to be the turnover of PhD students and things? Reputations. You need to speak to the people. If you get to come to interview, speak to the people in the lab. Because the PI will say, everything's wonderful here, I'm a brilliant supervisor, and you can have a great time if you come and work with me. But the reality might be something completely different. So try and get information from the people who are actually there. Ask around. But any experience you have, if you've done a summer project, if you've done master's project, anything that you can actually show that you know something, that will be an advantage to you, if it fits in with a project that's made available. The other thing which varies among people, is very important for me, is that you have social skills. And this is one of the things, if you think about careers in industry, they're not interested in what you've published. They're interested in if you have critical thinking, if you know how to do scientific analysis, and if you can interact with other people, because you work in teams. So if you have good social skills, that should be something that comes through during the interview. And if you haven't good social skills, then try and find a way to fool the people who are interviewing you. Well, don't quote me on that. So we have a variety of potential supervisors out there for you. And some of them are good, and some of them are bad, and some of them are unfortunately ugly. Right? We have a few psychopaths, and we have some brilliant supervisors as well. We have mostly good people. In actual fact, in the latest report, where we've asked people about their experiences, including all the people employed, the top hit, the most positive thing at the Karolinska is actually belief in your supervisor, the relationship with your supervisors. First time ever it's happened, but we've been working for 10 years to actually make supervisors understand what supervision is about, so most people, especially the youngsters, are actually rather good. But you need to know that this is around. But it might be that you accept somebody who's a slave driver. If they're doing really hot science and they're doing really good publications, maybe it's worth it. But you have to be honest with yourself. What is my sort of emotional status? Am I okay? Can I deal with a tough environment? Then pick a tough environment. That's good for you. But if you're not that type of person, then don't pick an environment where you're not going to thrive. So the more information you can find out about the potential environments, the people involved, the better. The next part will be then when you've been selected, there'll be a formal procedure where you make an application to be registered at the department, a lot of forms to fill in and so on. These are the eligibility requirements. So you need to be basically you need to have a master's level or equivalent education with this number of points and so on, either in Sweden or abroad, and you need to be able to be proficient in English. So these are sort of the formal things. If you don't fulfill any of these requirements, you will not be accepted. So it's important that all of those are filled. And then you'll apply for that together with your supervisor then, and this will mean that you map out a 4-year equivalent time project. Not all students will work full time, so I say equivalent time. Anyone doing a clinical PhD, the minimum time you're expected to do a PhD is 50%. So an 8-year PhD is what's expected time-wise, if you get 50% of your time to do it. But you'll make these plans and you'll map out all the things that you think will be important for your learning, which courses you want to do, which experiences you'll have going away. You get the chance to travel the world, to go to conferences, to present your data. It's interesting, when you're young, you go to conferences to have a good time. When you get old, you go to conferences to actually attend the conference. So nowadays I tend to be more into the science than I was in the social. When I was younger it was the opposite, but don't tell anyone that. So this is something that you then do together with your supervisor, and this is then a formal assessment where the department thinks, is this a good project? Is there enough finances for this projected project? Are the supervisors worthy supervisors? Is this going to be a good thing to start? And these are the things then. It's very important. Intended learning outcomes is to actually then put into words what type of learning experiences you're expected to have. Because that's the point. You learn to be a scientist. How much of the work a PhD student does practically within a 4-year period do you think is contained in the thesis that they present at the end of the 4 years, in the scientific papers? What percent do you think is included there, on average? 40. It will vary from project to project, but no one says more than 50% at maximum. So that means that 50% of your time and your experiences will not actually be shown everywhere, but they'll be apparent in your learning. So this is why we express your learning activities. These are the things I'm expected to learn, to be able to do, to have an opinion about. And that's what being a scientist is all about. Getting results is a nice thing that happens, and publishing good papers is an even nicer thing that happens. But that's not the point of a PhD. The point of a PhD is to train to be a scientist. And part of that is actually publishing. So within this plan, you don't just map out the cool experiments you're going to do, but you actually have to relate to why this is good for me. If you're a practicing clinician who's attending patients every day, and that's going to be a part of your project, then you have to try and specify why this is going to be more than your day job. What are the extra skills you're going to get by studying this population and so on. And you have to make sure that all ethical permits and everything are in place, especially nowadays. So after that, you'll have an admissions seminar. So if everything is approved, the formalities, you'll have an admissions seminar where the department will actually look at your application and say whether it's okay, whether you need to improve it in any way, and you get to present your research project plan to the departmental study director, and then you'll be approved or not. And what you do here then is other than to say what it is you're intending to do, and this is kind of, I think this is a little bit crazy. How can you plan what you're going to do for 4 years? None of my students end up doing exactly what we said we were going to do at the start. But you have the opportunity to update these project plans as you go, so then you can modify it on the way. But I mean, you never know what's going to happen in my world, in my preclinical world. You never know what the result's going to be. And depending on the result, then you decide to go this way or that way. So it's impossible to predict. So what's done here is a sort of a risk analysis. Is the potential idea of this project plan enough to keep someone busy for 4 years? Or whether you actually do exactly what you said at the start is time will tell. And you discuss the responsibilities. And as a student, you have responsibilities. We all have professional responsibilities. Supervisors to train you, to be your leaders, and you as students to actually do what's expected of you. So these are all the things that should occur during the submission seminar. And that's the process then. So from start to finish there, and then that's your gateway to the PhD. It's the funniest job in the world. Research means to search again. Search again and again and again. I think it's the most stimulating job you can have, because it's always something new. And you're part of this huge scientific community. It's like a big conveyor belt, and you step on and you're on it for 4 years, and then you step off and you do something else. But other people are coming after you. So the conveyor belt is always going on. Knowledge never ceases. And sometimes the new knowledge shows that what you thought for 20 years ago is complete rubbish. There come new techniques, and all the knowledge, prior knowledge that you had is no longer relevant. And that's really, really cool, because then you can readdress old questions using new techniques. And this is how the knowledge just expands and expands and expands. So there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to do. You get these fantastic experiences where you can interact with lots of people if you wish to do that. You get the chance to interact with people all over the world. You get the chance to just think, and that's what you get paid for doing. And at the same time, you end up with the highest academic degree you can get. So it's like this is a quote from Socrates, and I think this is the essence of what we try and do. So that was me. Now we hand over to the next speaker.